I am very honored to introduce our first speaker, Jessica Bonilla Damte. So I'll tell you a little bit about Jessica before she tells us her story. Jessica is a Latinx woman living and raised in Hamilton. She is a mother of 2 and tia of 3. She is actively involved in community-based projects and believes that it is important to include children in those projects. Jessica is also committed to creating a world without violence and oppression. She is a graduate of the Indigenous Studies program, Health Studies program, and the School of Social Work at McMaster University. She is now the director at the Sexual Assault Center at Hamilton and the surrounding area. Thank you so much for joining us and offering your story, Jessica.
Hello, just a quick sound check. Can you hear me? Yes, I see heads nodding. Thank you. So I did a little bit of a different kind of speech. Instead of sharing my story, I'm going to share my thoughts about what it means to choose the challenge. So buenas tardes, Sego, Ani, good afternoon, bon après-midi. My name is Jessica Bonilla Damte y me siento muy contenta de estar aquí con ustedes de manera virtual sobre tierras ocupadas de los Haudenosaunee y Anishinaabe, reconociendo el Día Internacional de la Mujer. As I mentioned, my name is Jessica Bonilla Damte, and I'm happy to be here with you all virtually on Dish with One Spoon territory, occupied lands of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe, recognizing International Women's Day for 2021. Thank you to the North York Women's Center for inviting me to join today. It's fabulous to be able to see Iris again after many years. Thank you to Shadi and to everyone at North York Women's Center for putting this wonderful event together. So March 8th, International Women's Day, is not just a celebration. For me, it is a continuous call to organize, to mobilize for women's issues. And when I say women, I include trans women, because we all must acknowledge, know for sure that trans women are women. International Women's Day is a call to create a better world for ourselves, for each other, for the children and youth who are here today, and for those who will come after. This year's theme, as we've mentioned, for International Women's Day is Choose the Challenge. And this theme, Choose the Challenge, allows us to reflect on what has been done, what we are doing, and what more needs to be done. Choose the Challenge for me means standing alongside Indigenous women, our sisters who are saying, no, I am not next, and it won't be me, it won't be my sister, it won't be my auntie, my mother, my grandmother, or yours, who will be among the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, trans, and two-spirit folks on these lands of so-called Canada. Choosing to challenge means that we take care of each other. Yes, that means celebrating our accomplishments, celebrating each other, allowing each other time to rest and support one another with that rest, checking in on each other and continuing to do the work we need to do for a better world, knowing that there are many struggles and injustices and that they are all connected, and that I cannot be okay while my sister is not okay. Choosing to challenge for me is about challenging the systems that are in place, that are built to keep those who are in positions of power, privilege, and decision-making in control. We must challenge these systems, these policies, laws that uphold white supremacy, misogyny, patriarchy, ableism, heteronormativity, and more. All of these systems are in place for who? White, able-bodied, straight, cisgender men. That's not me. That's not my family. That's not my children or anyone I work with. Is that you? Is it anybody who's in this virtual gathering right now? If it is you, congratulations. I'm happy for you. The system is set up so that you can thrive. But that leaves out the rest of us. On this International Women's Day 2021, we gather virtually. I know we want to be in person, but why do we gather virtually? Because we're living through a worldwide pandemic and we are trying to survive. A pandemic that we know has disproportionately affected women, Black women, Indigenous women, women of color. We have faced the need to stay home and isolate as much as possible. And we know this is difficult for a lot of people. And we know that for some women, it is more than difficult. It is dangerous or even impossible. For some women, staying home and isolating means staying home with an abuser. We know that during COVID-19, the rates of violence in the home have increased, including physical, sexual, gender-based violence, and child violence. The financial burdens that COVID-19 has created have also created significant challenges for leaving abusive situations, particularly if financial independence is not possible right now. Therefore, choosing to challenge right now also looks like calling on all levels of government for a gendered response to COVID-19, for a just recovery. We need safe, adequate, and secure access to affordable housing, access to safe, reliable, and affordable childcare. Recognize the gender division of labor and support women in precarious jobs. Women need paid sick days, benefits. They need to be able to take time off to care for themselves, their families, without the risk of losing their source of income. We need leadership and guidance from those doing the work and ensuring that we properly compensate them for that work that they're doing. There are so many communities and organizations doing incredible work to keep us safe, to keep us connected during COVID-19, who have done it pre-COVID and will continue to do so after COVID. Organizations like this very amazing organization that we're here with today, like the North York Women's Center. Therefore, it's imperative that proper funding is available so that the work can continue without hindrance, not just project-based funding, but multi-year ongoing funding. Women and children, our lives are not projects and must not be treated as such. So, on International Women's Day, let us choose to challenge societal expectations that tell us, as little girls in Latin America and throughout the world, that calladita te ves más bonita, which means in English, you look prettier when you're quiet. No, I challenge that. My sisters, know that you are all amazing, the way that you are. You have the right to be loud. You have the right to speak up, to cry out and resist. Now, I use this in all of my speaks because I believe it is so powerful. So let's make some noise. Let's make some noise virtually. We can leave ourselves on mute and make noise in our homes, but let's do it together. In many gatherings around Latin America, especially gatherings of women in la lucha, women in the struggle, there's a practice of holding a moment of rage, a moment of being loud, a moment to get out of our emotions and call out to those who we have lost, those who have been taken from us because of gender-based violence, because of femicide. The idea is that if we had to have a moment of silence for every girl, every woman, every trans woman, every sex worker, two-spirit person who has been taken through violence, we would be silent forever. And my friends, my sisters, I am not about to be silent. You do not have to be silent. I invite you to make some noise. Join me in this moment of rage. Let's make some noise. Let us call it together. In Spanish, we say ni una más, ni una más. In English, that means not one more. So let us call out together, not one more. Join me from where you are virtually in saying not one more. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Not one more. Not one more. Again, one more time. Not
Not
one more.
more.
This is amazing. Could you picture all of us together in a room screaming not one more all at one time? So I'm going to continue. Not one more woman, not one more woman without affordable housing, not one more in precarious employment, not one more without access to harm reduction services, not one more woman facing deportation back to a place that is unsafe for her, not one more being denied supports for mental health, not one more at higher risk of contracting COVID-19 because she is a migrant worker, because she is a frontline worker, because she does not have access to necessary PPE. Not one more Coco, not one more Amy Hagar, not one more Regis Kricki-Paquette, not one less woman on this earth because of violence against women and because of the systems that allow this violence to continue. Finally, I leave you this to reflect on as it relates to each of us as women, as Black women, as Indigenous women, as women of color, as disabled women, as trans women, as two-spirit folk. We know they tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we are seeds. Ni una más, ni una menos, not one more. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Jessica. That was very powerful. Our next speaker is Tej Wadhwa. Tej is currently the program manager for Ryerson University's International Educated Social Work Professionals Bridging Program. And she came as an experienced immigrant professional to Canada with a master's degree in social work and human resource management. Through her 15 years of work experience in both for-profit and nonprofit sectors, she has consistently strived for equity and fairness. In Canada, a significant part of Tej's working life as a volunteer, board member, frontline worker, and manager has been committed to creating access to employment for immigrant professionals. Thank you, Tej, for letting me introduce you, and please take it away.
Thank you, Shadi. Thank you. Jessica, that was so powerful. Indeed, not one more. Good afternoon, everybody. A few years ago, I was a board member at the North York Women's Center. So I know firsthand the difference this team makes in the lives of the women they serve. And I'm actually very honored to be here. We all know that International Women's Day earned women the right to vote after an organized resistance led by Russian women in 1917. And that was a bold step forward in the journey for women's rights. Unfortunately, 100 years later, not a single country can claim to have achieved gender equality. Women and girls continue to be undervalued, continue to earn less than men for doing the same job, and experience abuse and violence at home and in public spaces. What can I say? Indeed, not once, one more. Let me share my story. I will start by locating myself. I was born and raised by professionally trained parents in New Delhi, India. My parents did not have living memory of 200 years of colonization, but they understood the power of education. They made sure I had access to education in English. It was not until I earned a graduate degree in social work that I began to understand the dichotomy in my life. Although I had a liberal Western upbringing and education, India is a strongly patriarchal society where female child is undesired, rarely educated, and often denied autonomy. I'm going to fast forward to when I moved to Toronto as a mother to a 1 year old daughter. This is when I hit my first barrier. I could not look for work because I did not have access to affordable childcare. I recall thinking, that's weird. Canada is a developed nation. So many women work outside of work, and yet the daycare system is prohibitively expensive and inaccessible to many women. It's heartening to hear Minister Ahmed talk about what is being done in this situation to provide accessible childcare nationally, and that's a welcome move. However, it is pretty late in the game for us to be thinking. I'm going to be. This is. I think I want to fast forward now to another 3 years later. I began to feel very restless, and I wanted to start my career in Ontario. I realized that even though I had graduate level education and strong work experience in social work and human resource management, my entry to workforce was not going to be easy. I had hit three additional barriers. I was lacking recognition of my international credentials. I didn't have Canadian education and nor the Canadian experience. As I began to seek advice from government funded employment resource centers, it became quite clear to me that I was not even eligible for many employment services available to new Canadians because I had been in Toronto for over 3 years. This was yet another setback in my attempt to return to workforce. While I had faced more than my share of setbacks, my journey was not all about barriers. For every door that closed, another opened. I met employment advisors, social workers who became my allies. They suggested further education, informal mentoring, and volunteering to gain Canadian experience. I did it all. And I focused on maintaining a positive outlook, both because I wanted to succeed for myself and also because I wanted to be a good role model for my daughter. In the end, I earned a diploma from a post secondary institute. I began volunteering and sought a mentor in the agency where I volunteered. It took me another year and a half to secure my first paid employment. I hope my story does not sound like a textbook problem and solution. It is hard to put in words the emotional and financial strain that I had to go through. What kept me going was my belief in myself and my trust in this society. I had reasons for choosing to immigrate to Canada as opposed to any other country. My first job required less skills than I had, but I really needed to get my foot in the door. I knew over time I'll find something commensurate to my skill set, and I did. Skill underutilization is yet another individual barrier, but honestly, it's way more than individual barrier. It's actually really impacting Ontario's economy and prosperity. And this brings me to my current role. Now, I manage an intensive employment geared program for social workers trained outside Canada. On a high level, I run the program end to end, from recruitment to curriculum design to program delivery and everything that falls in between. But a very important aspect of my work is actually advocating for access to employment, credential assessment, and licensure for immigrant professionals. In this role, I'm finally using my graduate degree and work experience from India. I often meet women whose story is quite similar to mine. As a racialized woman myself, I'm pleased to share that more than half of our graduates are racialized women, which, as we all know, is among the most vulnerable group of new Canadians. These women gain employment within a year of completing the program and earn salaries comparable to Canadian educated social workers. If I were to describe my job in one line, I would say that although I open doors for all new Canadians, I make it a priority to support women so that I can do my bit towards achieving gender equality. Thank you, Shadi, and thank you, Iris, for engaging with me and for inviting me here. It's been a pleasure.
Quite inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the work that you do in lifting women up. Now, our next speaker, some of you may know her. Veronica Williams is one of the facilitators of our program at the North York Women's Center. Now, let me tell you about Veronica. Veronica is also a registered social worker, psychotherapist, who is committed to the empowerment of persons seeking fulfillment and mastery over their life. Born in Trinidad and Tobago, she migrated to Canada 5 years ago. She holds a master's degree in leadership and management of human services, a bachelor's degree in social work, and a graduate diploma in organizational behavior. In her more than 19 years of experience, she has worked in community-based organizations, NGOs, the public sector, faith-based organizations, and the mental health sector. She is currently the manager of community counseling, consultation, and engagement for Luminous Community Services. And to top it all off, she's one of our facilitators at NYWC. Welcome, Veronica.
Thank you so much. And thank you, North York, for inviting me, to talk this afternoon. I am woman and I dare to challenge. My story is not too far from Tejon. I migrated to Canada at a very mature age. I am older than I look. So if you are wondering what I'm talking about, everyone thought, of course, I was losing it. I had no support systems here. I had in the States, but not Canada. And my interpretation of relevant Canadian immigration policy was that the country needed skills and experience in several fields and professions. And so I thought, great, I have the training, I have the experience in at least 3 areas. So I applied for residency and was successful within 11 months. So I left Trinidad. Now, as old as I was, I had never lived on my own. So this was an excursion. It was a really exciting outing for me. And so I left my family feeling very positive. But before I left, 2 weeks before, the connection I had made to stay here said, I sold the house and I'm moving in with my son. So I had nowhere to stay. And within that time, within 1 week, I remembered going to a conference in Florida and meeting someone who was Canadian. So I connected with that person. And that person said, sure. So I came, I stayed for a while with that person. But the thing is, when I arrived here, I was in for a great surprise. There was no place to guide me, no vacancies. The vacancies that I thought existed, I didn't know how to get to it. I didn't know if there was. No one helped me to navigate the system. And so I thought I would get down to business. I said, you know what? Within a couple of weeks, let me start to make whatever arrangements, start to send out resumes and stuff like that. Well, I applied and applied and applied. Surprise, surprise, there were no jobs that I could get. You know, I was under either overqualified or I had the famous words, no Canadian experience, although up to today, nobody could explain that to me. Anyway, I began to get extremely angry when I said, you know, I was either, it just didn't make sense to me. It just did not make sense. Would you believe I tried applying for jobs? I went for a couple interviews, wasn't successful. And I'll tell you something, even I applied even to North York Women's Center and didn't get through. I didn't get through. I said to myself, you know, there must be a place that I could get employment, some place I could use some of my skills and experience. Then a light bulb went out. I said to myself, I know of one place I could get a job. And I also figured there will be no lineup to get a job. And I know you are probably working through your brain now to figure, okay, where did she go to get a job? Yes, I decided to go to a funeral home to get a job because I said, you know what? Nobody going to the funeral home, no line, no thousands of applications. I am going to a funeral home. And I know some of you all say, what? Yes. You see, I always liked the funeral business. And even at home, I wanted to own my own funeral home, but of course, none of my family wanted me to get involved with that. It's fascinated me as a child, you know, but it was there. I learned a lot of life lessons and how to, you know, assist people who experience pain and loss and try to navigate transition. And so, yes, I was employed as a funeral assistant. However, to get where I wanted to get, I had to continue looking. I went to every job fair, every employment agency. I did English. I did an English test, even though English is my very first language and I can speak no other language, you know. And eventually I used my skills, Googled, you know, and I came up with Ryerson. I saw Ryerson, and Ryerson was doing a program for internationally educated social workers. I applied to that. I was successful. However, even at that time, in doing that program, remember, I applied for the job in the funeral home. I had no idea where the job was and the distance it was. So it was not close to where I live. I didn't realize that after. And so I had to travel. I had to fight up with the snow. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. If you all know it, there is no snow there. So I had to fight up with the snow. I was not accustomed traveling with public transport. I had to fight up with TTC that broke down every 5 minutes, and there was always some delay. You know, I am not good with directions, so I lost all the time. Everybody was too busy to even guide me. And I would study in the subway sometimes, do my work on the train and the bus stop, everywhere. And then one day, my goodly coordinator said to me, I had to do something. I think I did a test or something. And she said, but you surprised me. I thought you would have done better. And so I almost didn't get into the program. But I was dedicated and I felt that, you know what, I had to keep moving. I had to keep going. And one of the things that I knew is that I wanted to succeed. I didn't feel that I had time on my side, you know? And so if I was here at 25, then I had all the time in the world. I didn't have all that time to me. And so I felt I needed to do this and do it quickly. I eventually graduated. I had to fight for many months to get recognition for my credentials, which I didn't have in Canada, which I didn't get in Canada. And even though I had one from the States, the one that mattered most was from the Caribbean, and you know, I had problems with that. And so for days and weeks and months, I had to be going back and forth and, you know, advocating on behalf of myself to get it. But even though I was advocating on behalf of myself, in the back of my mind, I felt that I had to go through it because other people would benefit, people who would come after me. And so I persevered and eventually I got it. And so I got a job after graduating, and it strange. It was the one place that I said I never wanted to work. That was the place that I got the first break after graduating. And so I got there and feeling really good about myself. It didn't work out. For some reason, my supervisor and I somehow we didn't, people are different. And so we had a different perspective. Things didn't go the way that it was supposed to go. And so I was out of a job for like 6 months. And here I was wondering, you know, I decided, you know what, I'll go back to my funeral home. But I still had to do something. And then I was told about this job in Hamilton. Now, I had never been to Hamilton. I now have to drive. If you know me, I was terrified of the highway driving. And so I had to get from where I lived to Hamilton. Of course, winter again. But nevertheless, I left home at 5:30 in the morning. It wasn't paying the salary that I thought it would pay or would make sense to me, but I took it nevertheless. And I went down there. And the thing about it is, I went 5 o'clock every morning, left home, drove there, because if I leave at 5, there wouldn't be any traffic in the road. So I left early in the morning so I could reach. When I reached there, I would park the car, put on my sneakers, either go walking, so I got exercise and learned the neighborhood, or I would stay in the car and finish sleep in the car, and then got up and went to work, you know? And so eventually I got a job at another agency where I did my placement. And I went, I saw the ad, I applied, I got through. And after 6 months, my supervisor left. And so when my supervisor left, I applied for that position. And I got through with that position and I became a supervisor after 6 months in that agency. I was told that nobody had ever done that. Nobody had ever come into the agency and even in 2 years became a supervisor, far less for 6 months. Today, the title is manager and I manage 4 programs and I love what I do. Now, all of this is to say to you that, and how did I overcome all that? And how did I face those challenges? I drew on the skills that I had. I pulled on this inner strength that I had. You know, I looked and examined myself for the tools that I had because I was in a strange place. And so I had to, what tools do I have that I could navigate this space? You know, what strength do I have? Everybody has strengths. And so I drew on my strength. I looked at every situation as an opportunity. And so I didn't have to go to Hamilton, but I went because this was a different experience and it could add to my knowledge base, you know. And so I looked at every opportunity as an experience. And I sat and I looked at myself and I said, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? You know, what do you want to achieve? What is my purpose here? And, you know, spending time with self and examining myself. And then, you know, some people might say I'm lucky. For me, yes, I'm lucky because I prepared myself. And so when the opportunity came, I grasped it. And so that is what luck is. Opportunity meet preparation. And so I prepared myself for the opportunity. And so, yes, I'm lucky. And yes, I am strong. I am beautiful. I'm determined. I am woman. Thank you so much. That is my story.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Give it a round of applause for all of our wonderful, wonderful speakers. Thank you so much.
And Tarana, I must say,
Go ahead.
do you know, I am a facilitator at North York Youth Center.
She's one of our wonderful facilitators. Thank you so much, Jessica, Tej, and Veronica. Your words, your stories are inspiring, and we are so, so happy to have you here and hear your stories. And we are 100% sure every person in this room is actually have a story to tell and have gone through challenges and overcome them. The extent of how big or small those challenges are, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that we all have that strength within us to overcome them.